John, how are you?
Okay,
Yeah.
we're on.
Thank you for coming. We'd like to welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we can do a roll call, starting down on the end with Keith.
Keith Goodspeed is here. John Hollinger here.
Dale Tribe here.
And Bagley here.
Did everybody have a chance to look over the past minutes? I didn't see any changes.
I did move the approval.
I looked them over and I moved that we approve them as they are.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Alright, so we'll pull up this.
Okay, are we ready?
Do we have a public hearing today? We don't need a public hearing today.
It's just always on the agenda as a placeholder, public hearings as needed. We're not doing a hearing on the list.
Okay. There we go. Welcome, Planning Commission. So tonight we'll discuss a little bit on tiny homes again. So have you guys had a chance to review the draft we sent out a few meetings back? Is there anything that you absolutely don't like about this, or do you want to see changed or concerns? We're just looking for some feedback.
My only concern is that they have to have a, oh my gosh, what's the insurance thing that they have to have?
The bond,
The bond.
yes.
They have to have a bond for their yard, but the city can use that for some other project other than what it is actually intended for.
Right, I read that clause in there, and the intent for that is to make sure that 100% of that yard is landscaped because of the reduced size and footprint of the lot that would be included in this overlay zone. Their purpose is to not have the dirt, to just have it all landscaped, xeriscaped or whatever, and the bond would be held until that was done, until the occupancy would be issued. And it did have some weird,
There's a paragraph after that, I can't remember. Allocated for the forfeit bond amount towards other city improvement projects as deemed appropriate by the city council or its designated authority. To me, that's the part that I didn't, I figured it should go right to the landscaping if they're gonna have it.
What section is that in?
it's in landscaping on the second to last page.
It's the last paragraph in landscaping.
I would take that to mean that if there was if the city did the landscaping and anything was left over, it would still be the city's property. Would that be right?
Okay, I was just gonna try to highlight it.
Yeah, go down.
It's,
Before trash receptacle.
Okay, go up. It'd be on the.
Before trash receptacle.
Oh, there's trash.
Right there,
There
right
we
there.
go.
There you go. Okay, at the very last, or
Right here?
point there.
That's the concerning one.
Yeah, that part there.
Sorry, John, I missed what you said there.
that's fine. I'll let you explain it.
So let's read this again here. Allocate the forfeited bond amount towards the other city projects as deemed appropriate by the city council or its designated authority. So it does give the leniency for the city council to do other items besides the landscaping with that bond. And the intent for that bond, reading through this, is for the landscaping to be completed. So we could clean that up, and if the landscaping is done, it needs to be forfeited back to the property owner. If everything's satisfied to the city standard on the landscaping.
So the comment is that it needs to be made more clear that the property owners will get that bond back if they complete the landscaping.
Yeah, because the way that reads, it does give, it's a little ambiguous on what the council can and can't do with that.
To me, it's just open to where they don't even have to finish the landscaping of that yard if they've got another project that they think those funds would be better towards, is how I read it.
Yeah, we can clean that up.
And make it clear that landscaping does make it.
Now, if half the landscaping's done and they pass the time frame, the city, I mean, they forfeit the bond.
Yeah, then
So
that,
the city has full right to that
right,
amount of money, and so they can use it, part of it to
exactly.
finish the job.
And maybe that's what it's alluding to, that if there is money left over, in the event they have to go and do the landscaping, if there is money left over, then they could do other projects in the city. I think that's probably what it's supposed to mean, but it needs cleaned up.
Exactly where are you reading?
It's, the fourth
On the
thing.
trash receptacles?
Just above it, just barely above it.
I had the same problem.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where does it say that they have to acquire a bond?
In that
Above that.
paragraph, in the above paragraph, if you'll start here, right down there.
I thought it was.
It basically, yeah, if you'll start here, it actually starts
Up
right
to
there.
landscaping, and,
I see.
In fact, if you'd like, I can just read it. Well, you guys have read it already.
And then it was also with setbacks of 5 foot on the side. Is that what normal is?
No, this whole thing's not normal.
Okay,
So this would be creating unusable space other than for tiny homes. So we're modifying the legacy setbacks of our other zones, we'll call it, quite a bit, just to mitigate some less than adequate space that we allow on the other zones, if that makes sense. So this is reducing it a lot to try to accommodate a tiny home.
so just out of curiosity, some of these lots that are pretty small but are already in existing neighborhoods, they could still build 5 feet from the property line if there's something already on the other side of the fence,
On an existing home.
on an existing home.
So on an existing home, they can, and reword that a little bit down, sorry.
So if you've got a home that's got the proper setback, say it's 18 feet off the side of the fence, they can come in and build it 5 feet within that fence?
Oh, I'm with you, I got you, yes, for the new construction, they could.
Okay,
And this is going to be conditional, permit issued. So each case will come through the planning and zoning body, it will have to be approved and go through the conditional use. So it's an overlay zone with the conditions. So it's not gonna open up a specific zone, and in here, we recommended a few of the zones,
right, like 4 of them, 3
the
of them.
RM 1318 and the R16, as being eligible for a tiny home overlayment. But each application will come through planning and zoning and through the approval process with a public hearing. And it does limit on how many you can do, up to 5 years, or 3 years. I have to read back through there. Oh, it's right here. The parent parcel may not be subdivided to create more than 4 lots within a 3-year period for the purpose of developing tiny homes. So it's not intended to create subdivisions, it's to fill in some of the areas that otherwise wouldn't get developed with the size of the lots. And we have several through Roosevelt that otherwise they are not legally, with the setbacks, that there's just no way to build a,
They're small.
Any idea how many?
not off the top of my head, Ren. I can think off the top of my head 5 or 6, but I'm sure there's more, you know.
And then if they were built in an existing trailer park in one of the zones that were, then that's like no more trailer there, right? Because these are permanent homes.
Unless they tear it out, yeah. Well, and in a trailer court, they can do one without a foundation. Because a lot of the trailers don't have foundations.
Right.
Those RVs can be set up in trailer courts. These tiny homes could be set up on a trailer set, is what we call it, without a permanent foundation. They're allowed in trailer courts, and it does specify they are allowed in existing trailer courts. Right now, we do have a moratorium on any new trailer courts. It's not allowed for quite some time. We have had that in place, so a trailer court's a little different beast, and we can wade through that a little bit, because in this, it might be a little different on the draft we copied, but in Roosevelt, we do allow those already if they wanted to bring it in now.
But they're mobile, not
They are
a
considered-
permanent.
Right.
Okay.
They could put it on permanent, that's fine, but also that would be the only circumstance that they wouldn't have to put it on a permanent foundation in an existing trailer court.
So if they bring one in, a tiny home on wheels and put it on a permanent foundation, is it like a manufactured home where they do the affixture affidavit and it becomes a permanent home and they can no longer move it?
Yeah, it would be a permanent home at that time. They could move it, but it would have to be moved from one foundation to another foundation. So, any other comments?
I have, you went over that real quick, the one part about the parent company may not create more than 4 lots. Is that, I guess is that if one owner wanted to do adjoining,
Yes.
one after another right adjoining to it, is that what?
So if we go back up a little ways,
Is that occupancy and parcel development?
if we go to development standards, it states in the minimum lot size, and there's a few things in here that we need to reword. I caught today just some misspelling, but.
Minimum lot 2,500, just make sure.
And then with an additional requirement of 500 square feet for each tiny home placed on the lot, up to 4 homes, and that's what we need to probably add in that section as well.
Uh-huh.
And we also added in here that it has to be occupied or owned by the same owner. They cannot be split off. The original draft did not specify that, but we felt like that definitely needs to be held under one ownership. If there's 4 homes on one lot, they cannot be split and separated and sold off.
And why is that necessary?
Because the problem we would have is we would be splitting such a small parcel of property for a lot. It would be better to have control over the 4 units, owner occupied. So the owner lives in one of the 4, they manage, they oversee its quality control. They're not as susceptible to be ran down. And that's what we're trying to alleviate, is we don't want to introduce tiny homes into our city and have it degrade the value of other properties because of the aesthetics.
Wonderful.
You'd split 4,000 square feet.
4
So
times.
4 times, so you only have 1,000
Yeah.
square feet per lot. If you divided it.
Parking's a lot easier to mitigate if it's one, because it might be a shared parking stall for 2 houses. Within that footprint, if you split off 1,000, it's gonna be really hard to handle parking as well, unless you're encroaching on the other lots, which they will have to do. That's the intent of keeping it all together. So they can accommodate some of those without having property lines to compound the problem. And hopefully that explains it a little bit.
It doesn't, in the same section, the corner 30 feet and 20 feet, is that a setback?
Yes,
That's different than the 5 feet if it's a corner.
yeah, and that's for safety concerns.
Uh-huh.
As far as visual on the corner, and we do have those implemented in our other zones as well on the corner lots. So
Okay.
we're not fudging on that. That's a safety concern.
So on these setbacks, again, like on the rear, it says 5 feet from the rear property line, as per fire code. If they have a shed or something against the fence, the neighbors, can they still only be 5 feet away, or do they have to come further away?
The neighboring property,
Yeah, when they go in to build,
so the new parcel of property or the existing
the
parcel?
existing parcel.
If they already have a shed,
If they have a shed right on the fence line, can they still come in and put their house 5 feet away from that shed?
yeah, according to this, that would be
According to
allowed.
this.
Mhm.
Okay.
We could increase that and that's what we're talking about it. And the setbacks are for emergency personnel, for firefighters to be able to get around a dwelling in a home. 5 feet's a little tight.
You make a really good point.
Yeah.
If there's an existing building, it ought to be further.
These homes are not big, and that's the reason why the reduced, I can see what they did in this draft is the footprint requirements are really small compared to a normal home size.
400.
But with the property footprint that we're reducing to, you've got to give and take, because if we don't give on some of the setbacks, it's not going to fit. But the rear and the side, I mean, it's going to be the same side or rear. If you have a shed on the side of the yard, because right now some of our zones, you can be within 3 feet with an outbuilding on the rear. So that would essentially give you 8 feet total with the 5 foot on the tiny home overlayment, if that makes sense.
Well, you can be 3 feet as long as there's nothing on the other side. If there's something on the other side, then you have to be 6 feet.
That's side regulations.
That side, not back. Okay.
Back can be right on
3 feet on some of our other zones within
the
3.
three. Okay.
So the side ones, I mean, we could talk maybe a little increase on the side, because I think that would be more of the safety. If you can exit and then come out and not egress and exit to the streets.
I would maybe recommend just get our fire department's take on that, maybe emergency personnel's take on that. Maybe use their recommendation on how far that should be set off.
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
I'm just thinking if a shed has to be 6 feet away, why wouldn't a house at least have,
Right.
it's a foot.
But we could, you make a good point, we could at least mirror what the shed setbacks are in some of the other zones.
That's reasonable to me.
But I'll reach out to fire chief on that, Rockwood, and find out what his take is on that as well. And that's what this is for, is just to talk through any scenarios and concerns, and safety with this overlay is the big concern, so.
I can see him saying it's basically a shed, and by the time we get to it, it's probably gonna be up and running anyway. But I don't know.
Okay.
Any other concerns on that one? Okay, let's move on to the
All right.
animals.
Okay, so in your packet, has anybody read over the proposed conditional use changes to the RM zones?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been proposed that we, in addition to the RM zones, add a item of raising up to 2 sheep or goats to a maximum age of 9 months, keeping up to 6 female chickens, keeping up to 6 rabbits, on condition that I'm struggling today, sorry. That the subject parcel is occupied by not more than 1 single-family residence. The parcel is comprised of a total area of not less than 6,000 square feet. A conditional use permit granted by the city shall not be construed to grant any right or privilege to a tenant which is not expressly granted by the owner of any parcel. So we took and basically copied and pasted from our R16 zone, if they meet the criteria of 6,000 square foot minimum in the RM zones. This is our high density zones that we've talked about, possibly having an animal overlayment of some sort in the past. This would mitigate the concerns of the size of the lot, and where it would be a conditional use permit, we can mitigate the concerns of smell or whatever we add in that conditional criteria that they have to meet. So we feel it would be a good asset for these zones, and allow them to have chickens under these criteria.
The chickens are presently allowed on much less than this, aren't they?
No, they're not. So 6,000 square foot is the minimum in our other zones. Our R16 zone is the zone that would be the minimum floor on
See,
that.
that's 60 by 100, that's 6,000.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So we wanted to get some feedback from the commission on this. We don't need a motion on this. We are within next month of bringing Title 17 back to you with the revisions that have been requested. And this will be part of Title 17 as well. If you guys like what you see here, if you want to make any modifications or suggestions, we would like to hear from the commission tonight on that.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't have any problem.
Great. So the consensus is we're good.
I want to read them.
Are these oars between them, and you can't have, okay, sheep or goats?
Yes.
I just want to look at the code as it is now. I mean, I guess.
So it's basically take the red line out. That's what it is.
Okay.
So the red line is the copy paste
It's a copy paste from the R16.
from the R16. So what you see there on M, or let's see,
Yeah, on M.
duplex
Or what will
conversion.
be N?
And
The N?
so on N, that would basically read word for word of what the R16 states.
So the one that have housing.
No, so the cows, large animals are only allowed in our R1, 1 acre minimum. So this is just taking the privilege of the R16 zone.
So there's the current conditional uses for.
The RM zones.
Yeah.
No, R16 looks like.
Okay, R16 is.
It's,
So what we have down to L
it's exactly what you would
is
read.
identical.
No, it's not a condition, just go, if you'll go to, single family dwelling. It's right there, residential, single family.
Oh, right here?
Yep.
Oh, that's where it was.
Okay, so go to permitted principal uses. And it's right in P. And we did add the verbiage, I guess, Ren, as far as the stipulation of the 6,000 square foot. So that is an addition to what is in R16 because it is the condition of meeting the criteria of 6,000 square foot and under conditional use approved by the planning and zoning body. By default, it goes through planning and zoning and city council on conditional use.
That's what, yeah, I don't
Okay. Staff feels good about this one as well. I think they've met our concerns as far as conditions. If it does become a problem with nuisance, then we can handle it on the conditions having been met. So if you're good with that, we'll roll it into the Title 17 and have that back to you next month in whole for final approval on 17. Okay.
Division manager report.
Oh boy.
Back to you, Drew.
So we've talked a lot about short-term rental properties in Roosevelt City. Our plan as staff is let's get the tiny home ordinance hashed out, and I think we're almost there. So hopefully in the next month, we'll have something to you guys to be under consideration for the short-term rentals and see if we can figure something out for that. There's been a big uptick in desire and need in Roosevelt for short-term rentals. Like I mentioned in the past, I think we need to be thinking obviously about the zones that would be a use for. The recommendation from staff would be the PO&R, professional office and residential, which would be a block off of Main Street, and other areas as well. It's a mixed-use zone and the commercial districts. There's a lot of homes in these areas as well that have come to the city that want to do this in the commercial district up on 200 North, John, kind of up in your area, where it's a mixed use. So it's coming. I think we just need to put our heads together and figure out what we want to see and how to do it right. So be thinking about that. I don't have anything concrete for you tonight on that, just something that's going to be coming down the pipe next month once we get this tiny home underway. So that's all I have for you tonight, unless you have something else for me.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Anything,
Thank you.
just one question, anything from your cities and towns? Do that?
Yeah, a lot of things.
League of City and Towns?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you a quick update. So we attended, Sunshine was there as well, and city staff and some of our elected officials to the Utah League of City and Towns. In a nutshell, affordable housing, that's the big buzz. And that's why we're bringing to you the drafts and the ordinance changes that we're looking at, is to mitigate some of the concerns the state has and quite frankly, that we're all having, and is affordable housing. And whether that be reducing the footprint or the tiny homes or short-term rentals, that is the state's push to affordable housing. I don't think we're as bad off. I know we're not as bad off as a lot of the areas in the Wasatch Front. Their affordable take is reduce the parking areas in apartment complexes to 0 stalls per livable space. And that is affordable housing. So the biggest cost in development is the surface for parking, asphalt, subgrade, and aggregate. That is a huge expense right now. So they're eliminating some of those provisions and pushing public transit and those types of commuting, which isn't probably the right idea, but that's what's going on in the Wasatch Front for affordable housing. So
And incentives for homes is
Yes.
under 400,000 is the max.
Yeah.
For
yeah, there's
Say more.
there's grant funding that has been set aside, and I think this is definitely going to keep going. The governor spoke on this, as well as some of the other classes that we were attending. They're incentivizing affordable housing. So the incentive is if the developer can target a price, and I believe it's mid 400,000 or under.
400,000 was the cap.
Yeah,
It
400,000.
was 450, but.
And it only required a percentage of the development. So say 60, I don't know exactly, but for easy math, 60% had to fall under this criteria. They were qualified for some grant funding to come back to them to help offset some of those costs, and to get affordable housing pushed in the state of Utah. So the incentive for the developer is, the funding is set aside for them to apply for. In return, they're building affordable housing. So some developers around here have latched onto that idea, and we probably will see some of that being taken advantage of. So it's new. We don't know a whole lot about it, but it's taken off, and I don't think it's going to go away.
And
So
then affordable is 450 and under.
for the Wasatch Front,
Apparently.
yes. I was in Provo today and I just happened to read some of the billboards on apartment complexes, the new ones. Mid 400,000, starting at mid 400,000, and these are apartments. So it's crazy, and affordable housing is the big push, and the state has recognized there's the domino effect is, I'll go one step further if we have a minute. It wasn't in this meeting, but it was in a planning meeting, an APA meeting that I was in several months back. The residual of this affordable housing crisis is kids are staying with their parents. They're living in the basements, they're living in wherever they can live, and they're not having children. So the population, they're seeing a decline in population in the state of Utah and across the country as far as that goes because of the affordable housing, which makes sense. We can't afford it. So there's more residual effect than just the pocketbook, unfortunately. So.
Boy, what parent doesn't want grandkids in the basement?
Right. I'm just saying.
Oh, boy.
We'll talk about accessory dwelling units later, so.
Drew,
Yes, Keith.
before we dismiss, I'd like to ask, what is the status of the Roosevelt water system? Have we got water? Are we out of water like so
No.
many other communities?
That's a great question. We don't want word to get out because we don't want a lot of people moving here, just kidding. But we have had leaders before us and managers and administrative staff that has done Roosevelt City very, very well in our water side of things. They knew the concerns of water and the importance of water. And they defined Roosevelt years ago that we are going to have water for years and years to come. We have plenty of water as of the near future and beyond.
What percentage of Roosevelt's water now comes out of starvation?
Right now, the majority of the water is coming out of starvation because it's a pay or use or lose. So we're trying to use up the block of water that we purchase.
So
Our wells,
So the wells up here are shut down?
no, they're not shut down. They're still being utilized. We still feed Neola. We still feed North Crescent, or Cedar View Montwell Water District with that water as well. We're still using that water, but not close to what we were before. But we still have that potential. So those wells are still operatable and still being utilized, just not to the capacity that they were in the past. So.
Well, I'm concerned, for years I've watched the Salt Lake, the Wasatch Front. They build, and I say, where the crap are they gonna get enough water to take care of all that? And you look at St. George, build, and they've got that crummy tiny little virgin river. And here in the Uinta Basin, we have the largest watershed in the entire state. Fruitland is out of water, Duchesne is out of water, Ashley Valley is out of water. The Pinyon Forest is limiting, they're gonna sell another 140 cards and then no more water out of their well. Duchesne City is shutting down all access to their water depot. Anybody that does not have a card with them after the 31st of December, there's no more water for Duchesne for people to haul. Duchesne County has put a moratorium on any development in the entire county, any subdividing in the entire county.
To put it in context though.
And so how is it that here,
Yeah.
that we got an 8 million gallon a day water facility, and it's all going to the damn oil patch, and people cannot build?
So to put it in reality, the county, in talking with the commissioners, have put the moratorium because of the problem out in the Cedars with wells. Improved water systems, there's not a problem with improved water systems. Duchesne has water. It is the issue of the Cedars out in the coke field
Duchesne's gonna quit selling water to the Cedars.
because of the issues that they're having with the development and hauling water and trying to punch the wells out there. So that side of the county has big problems because they don't have improved water and they're hauling water. So that's the reason for the moratorium. Roosevelt's sitting really, really well. Duchesne's sitting well. They're selling water.
Well, I'm in a business that when I sell a septic system to somebody to help them develop their property in the Cedars, they have to get a permit, they have to get a variance from the health department that allows them to haul water rather than to
Right.
drill a well.
Yeah, and I think the Tri-County Health Department has come down on that with the county, and that's why you're seeing the
So
moratorium.
my question is, can we come to Roosevelt City? Could they come to your depot out here and buy water if Duchesne's not gonna let them?
Sure, they can, but I think Tri-County is the one that's putting the moratorium on it.
Tri-County's gonna do what?
Tri-County has put the moratorium as well as Duchesne County. So,
No, at our board meeting a week ago, Darren said, if they can come up with a source of water, whether they get it from Heber, from Roosevelt, they can get a permit to build
and still haul water.
hauling water. And
And that's
so my
something-
question is,
Yeah.
if Duchesne, for years I've been getting this will serve certificate from Duchesne City saying that people can haul from their depot.
Gotcha.
And that's gonna be shut off, Pinyon Forest is gonna shut off. So can I have customers, can I come to Roosevelt City and get a will serve permit?
So Keith, we are not city council and I am not the water department. All I can tell you is currently they are selling water at their loadout. As far as what they can do and can't do in the future, I can't answer that. You'll have to bring that up with,
Oh, come on.
yeah.
But is the council aware of this water problem?
I'm sure that they are, yeah. I'm sure that they are. If they're not there, they will be.
I wasn't.
So,
Great.
we are aware of the moratorium in the county, though. We have talked with the county commissioners on the reasons why. And those are some of the reasons why, as far as the wells concerned and living conditions out there. They're revamping their minor subdivision ordinance and cleaning some things up. So the water shortage on that side of the county is one of the big driving forces because of the packing of water and the sanitary issues and the building, just the flat growth that they're having out in those areas without improved water. So if they want to drive to Roosevelt, currently we do have a loadout. We are selling water. But as far as in the
Is that
future,
a card?
yeah, they do have a key or a card station out there. So
You call it a depot, right here,
It-
west of town somewhere?
yeah, and the price of water is not real economical.
It's right at the end of the airport. It's right at
Yeah.
the east end of the airport.
It's more for industrial use that they're selling that for. But
Oh,
as far as I know, they don't have a moratorium on that as of now, Keith. That's as far as I'm aware. But it's something that we can definitely bring up with staff that's over that department.
Like I
I'm
say,
limited on
it just
information.
it just dumbfounds me that the Uinta Basin, from Ashley Valley to Fruitland, building construction is got moratoriums because we don't have drinkable water.
I can tell you Roosevelt does have water.
Okay.
What other counties and cities, I don't know.
Are you selling water to your own patch other than what goes out of your depot?
I don't know as if I can answer that right now, so
Could Kirby if I told him?
probably so.
Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was Randy second?
Yes. Off record.
Hold on.
What?